With TSD Talks.
Woof, 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 and welcome back, all my furry friends, to the Pillar of Garbage Dogcast, the #1 podcast for canine content, training tips, healthcare help, and so much more. You'd have to be barking mad to miss it. With me, as always, is my fluffy little guy, my heckin' little chonker, TSD. TSD, speak, boy.
Woof, woof. It feels like we've been gone for such a long time, Pillar. Woof, woof. I've in the time that we've gone, I've grown so much hair and these giant ears and this weird tail. It's frankly rather disconcerting. Woof, woof.
Listen to that, guys. He thinks he can talk. Yeah, I mean, we could kind of spin that out for a while. I could do a few sort of, what's that, boy? Trouble at the mill kind of things. But yeah, Pillar Garbage Podcast Dogcast intro. What did you think of that one?
I thought it was inspired. It really is something that could only really come from the mind of someone who has had a good solid couple of weeks of downtime. Yeah. I'm happy to see that has paid off. Downtime including, as I was just saying, you and as I think some of the people on the Pillar of Garbage Discord might have seen, a bit of puppy sitting from me. Girlfriend's parents got a new dog. We were there to kind of introduce it to the household and kind of look after it. You know, begin some of the kind of taking it outside when it goes to the bathroom kind of situations. You know, prime content for puppy posting.
Oh yeah, for sure. You know, so the fourth channel, Pillar Garbage, where the P stands for puppy, you know, all that's going to be going up there. That's not real. I don't know why I said that.
Pillar of puppy of I don't know, garbage can, because dogs like to root through garbage cans or something. I don't know.
Yeah, could work. Oh, here's a fun anecdote about the puppy, actually. Right, so the previous dog was kind of the generation of dogs. You know, it's like, you know, we talk about like digital natives, like people our generation have kind of grown up with the internet, and our parents are maybe a little bit less clued in sometimes, and especially their parents. The previous dog of theirs was a bit of an old fogey, right? But this new dog, since we got back, I have this wonderful video from my girlfriend's parents of them like FaceTiming my girlfriend on the TV, and the dog recognizes her. That's crazy to me. How you know, it's like the Zoomer dogs, you know, they're going to be talking about Skibidi toilet water, you know, and they're going to be drinking Skibidi toilet water. Is that something?
That's something.
Is that anything?
I thought you were just going to say a Skibidi dog toilet or something, but Skibidi toilet water is much better improv than I could have come up with. But you've got Skibidi toilet on the mind recently, right?
Oh, I have. It's not just a joke. I made like a little reference to it in the anchor being video I did a few weeks back, and that wasn't just me talking shit. I think about 4,000 words into a draft of an extremely complex video that is pretty tied to Skibidi toilet.
Only prime content from the Pillar of Garbage YouTube channel. I'm like, honestly, unironically so excited for this.
This is going to be a top 5 Pillar of Garbage video. Like, I want to express to the listeners who have an intimate knowledge of the Skibidi toilet lore, and to the listeners who have no idea what I'm talking about right now, both of you are going to think this video is really cool. So let me cook with that one, you know? A little bit of trust.
Did I ever tell you about the time that my friends like tricked me into watching all of Skibidi toilet? Like just unprompted.
Well, that kind of raises more questions than it answers, because I can see how you could be tricked into watching, say, the first episode. But it's quite long.
Well, Did
they kind of like tie you down?
It's not that long is the thing. Is that like when I watched it anyways, it was only like 30 minutes total of content, because it was like the videos were like, you know, like 30 seconds.
They start off like 10 seconds, yeah.
Yeah. So what happened was that my friend and my brother is who it was, had convened privately before, and they said, we're gonna play this like totally sick prank on TSD. They don't call me TSD, but you know. And what we're going to do is that we're going to like say that we washed all the Skibidi toilet, and we're like, we thought it was just like a stupid meme thing, but it turns out there's actually like a really in-depth story, and we're going to totally hype it up to him.
But no, there isn't really.
And I bought it, because like I was like, okay, You know, it's not that long. Might as well try it out. And so then I watched the whole thing. I was like waiting for like this dark turn or something that they had talked about, and like it never came, shockingly. And like they've held it over my head ever since. But honestly,
kind of like
I didn't
like a Clockwork Orange kind of situation right there.
Yeah, I didn't mind actually, because like as far as kids content on the internet goes, like Skibidi Toilet is probably like, you know, in the least one of the least offensive ones, right? Because like
and as this video is going to touch on, it's pretty inventive in some ways. It's definitely not Spider-Man and pregnant Elsa, is it?
yeah, it's not the Elsa-gate content. God.
Holy shit, when is the Elsa-gate movie coming out? That's the real question.
There's got to be like a documentary about it somewhere, right? Like how it started, because that'd be an interesting story.
No, I mean like Michael Bay gets the film rights for Elsa-gate. Michael Bay directs like Don't Miss It, the summer's big tentpole, pregnant Spider-Man, Green Goblin, Anna, Elsa, Olaf, Frozen. You know?
Yeah, I mean, Spider-Man and Elsa are both owned by Disney, so they could conceivably do that.
Yeah, it could. Make it happen. Make it happen, Bob Iger. What are you even doing? Why are they paying you so much if you're not going to make pregnant Elsa Spider-Man crossover? What justifies your pay packet if that is not the firm script outline for Avengers 7 right now?
It's probably going to be better than whatever Avengers 7 actually is. We're joking. We're all having good fun. I love the how the Marvel machine is going right now.
Yeah, I'm saying that with like a scooch less irony than you, but yeah.
Yeah.
Only a scooch less.
It's funny because like for years I was always like the guy holding out hope of like, you know what? It's actually like they might be going through a little bit of a rough patch with some of this stuff, like just like with. Yeah. You know, like there's some stuff that's like whatever, but like I think that the not to turn this into another Is Marvel Dead episode, because we already did an episode about that,
which we released at a very, that was very timely from us. Right. Very nice of Marvel to cast RDJ's Doom like a day or two after we filmed that.
No, it was hours later. It was like 6 hours later.
Yeah, wake up to it the next day for me.
Yeah, but it's like I think the oversaturation is more just what got me rather than any kind of quality thing. It's just like I was like, I've watched so much of this stuff, and I'm like, I don't. It's not even that matter of fact of like I hate it or anything. It's just I'm tired of it. But
yeah, it's like as a kind of historical parallel. So Edward IV's brother, I think he was like the Duke of Clarence or something. I can't remember exactly, but he was a bit of a bad seed. He was maybe the worst seed, and he was doing a bit too much kind of rabble rousing for a bit too long. So eventually, his brother, the king, thought, well, enough is enough, and he had him drowned in a bottle of Malmsey wine. Now, I'm sure that wine was delicious, right? I'm sure it was high quality stuff. It's from the king's vintage, right? But too much wine, and hey, you drowned to death.
It's like when someone's like, well, why are you drowning? You drink water. You live on water. Why are you drowning? Yeah. But I guess it occurred to me after the fact, because I had this like kind of moment in the last couple of weeks. It occurred to me that maybe binge watching all of the Fox Marvel X-Men movies in like one go, and then being inundated with X-Men stuff after Deadpool and Wolverine came out maybe wasn't the best way to solve any kind of Marvel fatigue I was having.
Yeah, I think that you're right. That could have been a contributing factor, perhaps.
But that's stuff we've already talked about.
Yeah. I was just gonna say though, this is gonna get us I'm gonna segue us both into new things and also the loose topic of the episode, right? Because hey, maybe Marvel was better back in the day. It
was better when I was a kid. It was best when I was a kid.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of everything was better back then in the good old days. And speaking of thinking about stuff being better in the good old days, one thing that I'm working on potentially, I'm looking into doing a sort of follow up to the best film of all time video that I did, which is obviously the Over the Hedge analysis. So,
and which finally got released.
Unironically, yeah, that finally got released. It's currently, I think it's actually, I'm going to check because it might have just crossed 100K, which is great. And I'm glad people are liking it. They are liking it. It would be slightly greater if I was earning any money from that 100K, but we take what we can get. Some guy, I think I got a reply on that. Some guy replied to my pinned comment saying like, sorry guys, this is demonetized by saying like, okay, it's demonetized, but can you take the adverts out because there are too many adverts? It's like, no, it's kind of the opposite of what I can do there, you know?
Yeah.
DreamWorks are probably making a nice little pocket of change off of this, but yeah.
Yeah, if it makes you
pillar of garbage isn't.
If it makes you feel any better, the ad revenue is going to fund Shrek 5 and the live action. The live action How to Train Your Dragon movie.
Well, you know, win-win then. But yeah, I'm thinking because a lot of people. Because the thing is with me, I'm kind of spinning a lot of plates right now. I've got a lot of video ideas that I'm kind of developing, and that's in part because I've got a lot of ideas at the moment. Mm-hmm. And partially it's like, do you remember the James Summerton, one of the apology videos? He says something like, oh, I just had to plagiarize because I was signing too many sponsorship deals, you know?
Is that all of them? I think that's all of them.
Yeah. But like, I'm kind of James Summerton maxing right now because I'm kind of working on 3 sponsorships that all want to be out in the next sort of
doing so much
month and a half. Yeah, exactly. I'm just cribbing everything.
Did you see there was another plagiarism scandal on YouTube in the last couple of weeks?
Oh, the Archer Green one.
Yeah. I didn't watch the whole video about it, but like, it's wild that
I did.
It didn't seem good.
I think I'd seen his stuff in the recommended before, and I just thought like, you know, this doesn't strike me as. Because, like, so the thing is about him, he was plagiarizing from here, there, and everywhere, but also he was sort of copying the thumbnail and title style of another channel who, like, uses kind of memified titles to wrap up, like, decent analysis. Yeah, that guy.
I like his videos.
And I don't know what it is, but I think I think some part of me seeing the Archer Green imitation of that in the recommended just, like, sort of clocked, you know, well, this isn't your format. So...
Yeah. It's kind of Cinema Sixes thing.
He's already given me kind of like lightly red flags that, yeah. And I mean, if you go back and watch the videos, they've all had the comments turned off now. But it is just that same. It is just that same thing you had with previous plagiarizers, where it's like you're listening to him speak the words, and he doesn't seem fully convinced by his own words. It's like he's reading something rather than having written something, and it's like, yeah, I'm not shocked really.
Yeah.
But no, obviously I've had to plagiarize so much. I'm James Summerton maxing, but like the reality of that is because of videos doing kind of well for me recently, the Bircham era, I've got a bit more kind of attention from brands than I ever have. So like this next month and a half for me is like, I'm going to say yes to a bunch of them. And I'm just going to like Sigma grind out as many videos as I can while still making them good videos. And then I'm just going to like, I'm just going to, like, October, I'm just going to be burnt out, you know? But you a sponsorship in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. That's the saying, isn't it?
I'd imagine so. I'm not in a lot of sponsorship circles, but, you know, I was on the Pillar of Garbage podcast episode about sponsorship, so I'm pretty much an expert.
Yeah, so you got some credentials there for sure. But yeah, circling this all back around, one comment I got along on the Over the Hedge video, is they're saying like, oh, you should talk about PoGcast. You should bring PoGcast into this. And I'm kind of starting off like, all right, but what is that though? And then it turns out it's a Studio Ghibli film about. Have you seen it?
I haven't. I'm kind of a fake movie fan because I haven't watched a lot of the classics. Like I had only I've only seen a couple of the Ghiblis. I've seen Spirited Away.
Well, this was me until recently.
I've seen Princess Mononoke. And I've seen Ponyo, and I think I've also seen Boy and the Heron.
I've not seen any of those. I've seen PoGcast because I watched it. I think it was last night because of these comments, and a few weeks ago I watched Porco Rosso because that had been coming up on my Netflix recommended for so long. And I was just waiting for an opportunity to watch it because so the premise of that one is like it's an animated kind of like pilot, but he's a pig, and it's in like. He's flying over Italy in the 1900s, shooting down pirates, and it's just like, how are you pressing all of my buttons at once, Netflix?
Just hell yeah.
So that was fun.
Dudes will see this and say hell yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the dude, and I'm saying hell yeah. And similarly, in terms of things dudes say hell yeah to, PoGcast it's simultaneously kind of like a Japanese precursor to Over the Hedge. It's like these raccoon dogs having their natural habitat kind of threatened by urban expansion and trying to sabotage it. And also that's like shot, and then the chaser is they do a lot of that opposing with magic inflating battling testicles.
Pesticles?
Testicles, yeah. Like these raccoons, like
okay,
they can they can shapeshift, but they can also just kind of inflate the size of their like raccoon balls, and they just like use them as weapons.
Oh, you are saying testicles?
Yeah, I am. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I was like,
for sure. I mean,
was
the first
convinced
time
I was
they said it
mishearing
in the film.
I was convinced I was mishearing.
I was convinced I was mishearing them, or rather, misreading the subtitles. But no, it's look into it if you're curious.
I can see why that one never made it to G Kids.
Oh yeah, it's funny actually that because there was like a Disney release because with some of the Ghibli films, Disney did like a dubbing and released it in the West, and in the Disney version, they instead talk about their raccoon pouches.
I see.
But clearly they're not raccoon pouches.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe a video about that and Over the Hedge.
Yeah.
Comparing the size of the animal's genitals between
just do a frame by frame analysis. I haven't watched Over the Hedge in like 10 years, so there's got to be at least like one like joke about animal genitalia at some point, right? Like because it's a DreamWorks movie.
You'd think so. None are springing to mind.
Well, you gotta find one then.
Yeah.
I've also got a lot of video ideas, but the difference between you and me is that you're actually making your videos. And I'm like just thinking about it. This could probably like transition into your observation you were talking about a little bit before we started. But I'm working on a video about Gravity Falls. I announced that on my community page. My Discord community knows about it. Specifically though, what I've been doing is I've been rewatching the whole show and then like consuming all of the bonus content I can, partially just because I want to, but also because I can justify it to myself as research.
Nice.
And but currently the video I want to make is called Gravity. It's about how Gravity Falls is a 2-season show and it doesn't need a season 3, because recently there's been a revival of it a bit because of the new book that came out. I talked about it on one of the podcasts, I think. And the book has like a new like puzzle and an ARG attached to it, and people are thinking like, oh, this puzzle, it's like maybe it's hinting to season 3 coming out. They're gonna make a season 3. This is like the advertising campaign for it. When the creator of the show, Alex Hirsch, has said easily hundreds of times that he doesn't want to make a season 3 because he felt that the story was over once he made season 2, and it came to a natural conclusion, and he didn't want it to keep going and be like a shambling corpse of its own self. So
what you're saying is he's lying to throw people off the scent, and they're 100% making a season 3.
Yeah, that's what's happening. It's just like it's just the long game, bro. It's God, no way. It's
like Oasis. They always said they're not reforming, but they look at them now.
Exactly. No Way Home advertising has ruined a generation. People actors just like straight up saying that they're like saying point blank that they're not going to do something is taken as like, oh, but he's going to be in it. Oh, but he's going to be in it.
No, that's true, because before No Way Home as well, like a lot of people would think that. But now they've got that vindication with No Way Home. They've just got so much more insufferable.
Yeah. My hot take. So I'm giving away the thesis of my video before it comes out, but my hot take, I think that this whole Cypher Hunt, Bill Cipher book thing is not actually a secret plan to release season 3, but rather a celebration of the fact that the show hit its 10-year anniversary just like a year or so ago. That seems much more likely to me.
Okay, but have you considered the fact that property is good, so property should continue and more episodes forever always?
That's true. We gotta create more capital, because the IP continues to exist through capital and people's ability.
I'm always talking about capital. Yeah, I'm always saying we should. Hey, that capital? We should get more of it. We should organize our lives in a kind of system oriented solely around maximizing capital and capital returns. I'm always saying that. Ask any of my friends, I'm the guy.
We got to go back in time to the first caveman and tell them about profit incentive so that they can evolve.
Yeah, we've got to build like a stock market for rocks. We've got to make a rock market.
Rock market.
Not Ogden and Glug heading down to the rock market in 3000 BC.
If a rock market crashes, does everyone just get crushed?
Yeah. That's what fossils are.
Oh, they couldn't survive the great old recession.
That's why they call them fossil fuels, because
right.
I finished that bit in your minds, guys. I'm a little bit out of practice. We've not done one of these for a couple of weeks. But yeah, you're in the early research stages of that, so
yeah.
Any time frame for the Gravity Falls / TSD Talks sort of like Venn diagram overlap superfans?
If I was a liar, I'd say that it's going to come out in August, because I want it to come out in August.
Nice.
But like that's not going to happen at this point. Like
no way.
Hopefully, like early September. I won't. For my American viewers, I'm going to try and get it out before the first presidential debate.
Okay. So when's that?
That's September 10th.
Okay. Well, yeah, that'll still be a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah. I want to make.
Should that be our thing now? Should you be the liar? And because there's always the two guys, and one of them's like he only tells the truth, and the other guy only tells lies. That could be our thing for this podcast.
My favorite. I love hearing people's solutions to that riddle, because there is a solution. There is like a question you can ask that's like the right answer or whatever. But you can also just like, I've seen people say like, well, I just kill one of them and ask the other one if he's alive.
This is true. But then maybe they set you up there as the third guy who, you've got the guy who always tells the truth, you've got the guy who always lies, and then you've got the third guy who just kills people, and then maybe you kind of fall into that trap, You
get a job position.
Maybe there is no escape. Exactly.
Yeah, but I want to get back into practice of making stuff more regularly, just because I like making stuff, and I've just been really busy lately because I burn out from the X-Men video, but also I've been getting a new job and stuff like that. You said you had something about like nostalgia that you want to talk about. I thought that the Gravity Falls thing related to that.
It's a good vehicle for this discussion because I guess I'll throw the PoGcevation here. I noticed that a lot of video essay content or video essay adjacent content, because terms aren't 100% brilliant. Sometimes the genre boundaries between this and that are a little bit loose, but video essay type stuff,
kind of a spectrum of video making,
a lot of it, in this spectrum, it's interesting to see all this, and a lot of the stuff, especially about older media, people doing videos about Over the Hedge or about Gravity Falls or that sort of stuff, like how much of the value there, how much of the entertainment should be sort of rooted in the sort of reliving of these old things and the kind of nostalgia, like playing around in the nostalgia, hey, remember this, describing what was and rekindling that spark in the viewer. What role should that play in like an entertaining video essay alongside analysis? Like, how do you, if you're writing this Gravity Falls video, how are you balancing up like, hey, this was a cool thing, let's all relive some of the cool moments, and let me recount the story to you guys, versus like kind of more cold sort of objective style critical analysis type stuff.
Well, okay, so there's something that that one of the members of our Discord server has kind of described, a phenomenon people that Ash has described, where I think she calls it like the clip show effect or something like that. But essentially like this thing where people won't rewatch old media. They'll like watch compilations of like XYZ character doing this thing for 6 minutes or whatever, which are essentially just supercuts of like the best moments of these shows and these characters. And so people remember highlight reels of what's going on, and rather than rewatching things. And I feel like that part of that mindset of like, I've already watched this thing, I don't need to rewatch the whole thing, I just need to like relive the cool moments. I feel like that kind of is a mindset that's become more pervasive and is kind of encouraged by some videos that like summarize the things. Like, not saying that you shouldn't summarize something in a video, because I feel like anyone, it's always possible that someone who's never seen the thing you're talking about stumbles across the video and continues watching it. But I do think that it's interesting that we have kind of this culture and I think that this kind of encourages a lot of like the nostalgia blindness that we see, like whenever you see people who are talking about how like I hate to bring up Star Wars again, but people who talk about like the Star Wars prequels and say that they're like so much better than the Star Wars sequels for XYZ reason, whenever you ask them about like what they're thinking about with the prequels, they're always talking about like the best moments, like the Anakin, like whenever they talk about like the Phantom Menace, they'll talk about like Anakin in the
pod racer,
racer, or like Obi-Wan and Darth Maul's duel, but they won't talk about like the like 30 minutes of slow opening where they're like sluggishly going through the Naboo, and like there's
going down into Gungan Town,
stuff like that, and like how just blatantly racist the Trade Federation people are. Like, oh my god. And so I feel like that if you're going to critically evaluate something, and you want to have the best accurate, like, think about it from your perspective, I recommend you rewatch things and like reevaluate them from that perspective. And that's part of why I wanted to rewatch Gravity Falls, because I haven't seen it in like, I want to say 4 or so years. And it's one of my favorite shows, so I don't mind rewatching. But rewatching this, I was able to pick up on so much stuff that I wouldn't have 4 years ago. And also I've been listening to the commentary tracks of all the episodes, which have been really interesting for me because I've made a show. So now hearing like Alex Hirsch talk about his process and stuff is really interesting to me. But it also helps me solidify my original hypothesis, which was that Gravity Falls doesn't need a season 3. But this time I was able to articulate why that is, and not just like a feeling that I had when I finished it. Like, yeah, I'm okay with this not going on. If you have like non-specific feelings about old media, and you want to like properly articulate that, it's good to go back and revisit it so that you can either challenge your own perceptions or strengthen them with specific arguments. So, but that's something from like a video creating perspective. From a audience perspective, there's this, I've noticed that some people kind of have this feeling of like, oh, I can watch like a 2 hour, or it's 2 hours probably short for him, but like a 6 hour Quentin Reviews video about Victorious, and that's basically like rewatching the show.
That's as good as watching the show. Yeah,
but it's not really. It's like it's just reliving like a summary of it. Like, no shade to Quentin Reviews. He's found his niche. He makes the videos that people like.
He makes stuff that people like. Yeah,
but I don't feel like watching a Quentin Reviews video should in any way be a good substitute for just rewatching a show. Not only because I kind of hate any kind of process that quantifies like stories as just facts to be remember, but also because there's just so many other factors that get left out of the experience. And I feel like that if you're just listening to someone else summarize something, instead of having an organic experience or re-experience of something, you're just supplanting your own experience with their experience, right?
Yeah. And like, I think that I do think that you're right that mindset is sort of spreading a bit. And I don't know how much to chalk that up to people like Quentin, or just, it is a wider thing as well. Like, even outside of like the TV movie niche, like watching sort of like game reviews or retrospectives, sometimes it will just be someone like describing what happens in a game and talking about like, oh yeah, and I remember this, this was always one of my favorite parts of it. But like, I do think it's spreading because I sometimes get comments if I do something on like a TV show or a movie, especially one that's like sort of just coming out. Every now and then I'll get one that's like, oh, thanks, I'll watch your video instead of watching it. And I'm like, guy, what? What do you mean? And then conversely, if I sort of, because my mindset with this is on the balance, because ideally you want a video about something to be entertaining and appealing and interesting to someone who hasn't seen the thing, but also to someone who has. And typically, I kind of try not to, if I'm doing a video about a movie, I'll try not to spend ages explaining the movie or like doing a plot summary. I used to do that a bit more, but it's sort of like, that feels like padding. It feels like filler, and I don't want to be spending time writing and recording filler, because I'd rather be writing and recording, the juicy stuff. And sometimes if I really just give the basics of like, sort of recap whatever plot points are necessary for the point I'm about to make about the themes or whatever, I'll get comments being like, oh, I wanted to watch your review of this, even though I don't really call things review for this reasons. for this reason. They'll be like, oh, I tried to watch your video, but you didn't explain it at all. And it's like,
well, you gotta watch it.
It's it's not I feel like, and maybe it's because of the sort of the generic vagueness around video essay, but some people do come to them expecting sort of stand-ins for the media. And personally, I think I think video essays are a lot better when you try and get away from that.
Yeah, I feel like a video essay should stand on their own as their own pieces of media rather than being like a summary piece for something else, Like,
yeah, but the tricky part here, though, is that thinking about it, on the one hand, I'm saying, yes, we shouldn't rely on the warm fuzzies to have people enjoy and watch our stuff. But then on the other hand, like, I do a video like the Over the Hedge video, and if it wasn't for me trying to trigger the warm fuzzies in people's minds, like with the thumbnail and the title, them seeing it and thinking, oh, hey, I remember that. Yeah, that was a fun, I watched that when I was a kid, blah, blah, blah. If I don't have that spark of nostalgia in them with the stuff that isn't about things coming out right at this moment, then, no one's going to click it. So feels like it's an interesting paradox, I think.
I think that from that perspective, it's kind of a thing of where the nostalgia is kind of incidental to your point. It's not so much like you're making this because like, oh, I'm making this because Over the Hedge is nostalgic and I want to make like the video this month be about Over the Hedge. Obviously it was like a Patreon requested video from what I remember. But you also like if you make the video because you have something to say, right? Because like if you didn't have anything interesting to say about Over the Hedge, you'd just be like, you probably wouldn't make the video, I'd imagine. But
then also, this is a good example though, because I didn't have anything to say initially until the Patreon vote came in and I had to find something to say. And I went and I found something real to say, but I only did that because of the kind of, maybe, the nostalgic interest of the Patreon supporters for that video idea.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of like it can't be an all or nothing thing just because of the system we exist in. Like, I feel like if you're... Do
you mean like the woke
the woke
ESG system?
Where the woke mob, woke mob that is so powerful that it...
Yeah, they kind of make you wear like cat ears. And,
It's so powerful that it got the acolyte to exist for one whole season before being canceled. But I feel like that if you have something legitimate to say about a piece of media and you say it that's what your video is, it doesn't really matter if it's also got a cynical reason of like, well, it'll also do well because of nostalgia. Because as long as it's as long as it exists and has a good point on its own, I feel like that justifies its existence enough. As far as summary goes, I feel like a summary can be, it's kind of a thing of like where when I make a video, I try to summarize the piece of media I'm talking about enough so that someone who has never even seen it before in their life will understand the context of the specific points I'm making, but I won't just summarize everything. Like for this Gravity Falls video, I do spoil some like big moments in the series for it. So, if you're planning on watching it, you should probably watch it before the video comes out or watch it before you watch the video. But I don't summarize all of the things that get there. I'll like the structure of my point with the video is I'm trying to like convey the feeling of being in the Gravity Falls fandom when these big reveals were made and like trying to convey what that moment in time was like. So like let's say there's like so in the show there's this overlying narrative where you're trying to figure out who wrote these journals that like one of the main characters, Dipper, finds in the woods. Yeah. And so there was an episode where you find out who it is. And so what I did in the video, I'm like, okay, so this was the mystery and these were some of the clues that people picked up on across the episode, or across the show airing. And then this episode came out and it was revealed to be this. And then the reaction was like this. And so it's not like, and then Dipper, like, this is a fake version of the storylines. It's like, but it's like, and then Dipper spent the next 3 episodes reading through the book, and then he found these exact moments. And while that was happening, Mabel was visiting with like several times. Yeah. And like, I'm not summarizing the whole show for you. I'm just summarizing this like key element, and not even summarizing it very in depth. because I feel like that giving context is different than just straight summary.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because if your project is to kind of, if part of the argument you're making is going to rely on you kind of doing like fandom archaeology of like presenting how it felt to experience these reveals at the time, then by no fault of your own, and I'm using fault loosely here, but that is, that could almost scan to the viewer who hasn't seen it as a sort of the way someone might make a video as a substitute for the series. And it's just interesting the way that you can't even get away from the kind of nostalgic or media replacement video essay thing, even when you're trying to do the opposite.
Yeah, I think it's more annoying for me because I want to find analysis of things when I'm looking for video essays, and sometimes what a good like warning sign is usually if it's like a really, really long video and it's about like one movie or one episode or like one TV series.
Who'd do something like that?
I know, right? But and it's not even that I'm talking about specifically. I'm just like not even talking about like nitpicking, just like straight and summary. Because I'm working on another video about some spooky video games, including Slay the Princess, which I've mentioned before. But I also wanted to talk about Doki Doki Literature Club for that, which is because it's a bit more of a notorious example of the phenomenon I'm talking about. But I was looking at some video essays to see if anyone had like said the things I had said before, and I found a couple of good videos that did do like Sagan Hawks does pretty good videos in where he does summarize things, but he also after the fact he summarizes the fandom exposure, and then he does his own analysis of the video after the fact. So it's like a big suite of a bunch of different mini video essays all about the same topic plugged into one. Which I think is cool. I like his format. But then there's also this other channel who I won't name who did a video about Doki Doki Literature Club that was like an hour and a half long, and I watched it and it was just a summary of the game. Like it was just summarizing what was happening. To me I felt frustrated because specifically with Doki Doki Literature Club, it's free and it takes like 3 hours to finish. So you really don't have to invest that much more to just experience the game for yourself, right? But I don't know. I feel like summary content is annoying because this video was called like the psychological horror of Doki Doki Literature Club, and I thought it was gonna be like an actual essay about it, but no, it's just
like a reading of
But it's just a description of it. And psychological horror is just the genre of the game, so
it's like a 17-hour video essay, the fantasy of Skyrim. Great,
yeah.
Speaking of things that drive you crazy, though, kind of, psychological torment, all this. I've just looked at my Audacity, and then I've looked at my microphone, and I've seen that, because my mic's doing this annoying thing at the moment where it keeps defaulting back to the highest, gain setting. And I turned it down before we started this specifically because I knew a few episodes ago it had done that. And then listening back, it was all really loud and a bit sort of clipping. So I specifically turned it down so it wouldn't do that. But somehow it's reset itself into high gain mode. So sorry, guys. If any of you've been listening 35 minutes and you're thinking, wow, when's Pillar going to address the fact that he sounds like shit? We're there. I'm going to try and do better.
Yeah. Just you just gotta sit in front of your couch, and be like, you gotta pull out the ukulele. I'm very sorry, very, very sorry.
No, that'd be a good bit though, like ukulele apology song. But at the moment it starts, I just absolutely peak the audio levels in the editor to just be like, bass boosted the whole time. That's a good bit. Okay, everyone, pretend I did that.
It's been over a year since that video came out. Isn't that wild? That
feels like it. I feel like it's transcended. It's transcended itself, and it's become like the perfect symbol of the insincere, stupid apology. So I think we have to thank her for that.
I remember for years and years and years, the go-to apology video mockery was, "I've made a severe and continuous lapse in my judgment." Like Logan Paul held the king held the crown for that for years, and then Colleen Ballinger comes in.
Yeah, I've not seen that. I've not seen anyone reference that ever since.
Like Colleen Ballinger just comes in with this like stupid ass ukulele song and just completely like takes the crown immediately. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's kind of her legacy at this point. You know, decades of
game
YouTube.
Respect game is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Logan Paul can't make apology videos right now since he's caught up in a internet harassment lawsuit against, not against, but by Iman Khalif. Is that how you pronounce her name? Iman Khalif?
I think that's in the ballpark.
Yeah.
Speaking of Logan Paul, though, you know, and hey, you know, listeners to the Pillar of Garbage Dogcast, cover your ears. Did you see that? Did you see that clip of him like, hey, I'm going to be careful here. It looking like he shoved his dog off a boat towards a propeller for content.
No, I didn't see that. Jesus.
I don't know how it's flying under the radar because like it's like there's this bit in one of his videos. I don't know. I've only seen the clip. I've not seen the context because obviously I don't fucking watch Logan Paul. But it's like this little dramatic sort of beat in this, hey, we're on a boat type of video, and we sort of, the camera goes in really close to the dog, and then the dog sort of surprisingly goes off the boat and then goes underneath it, and then Logan's like, oh, I gotta save my dog, and jumps off. But we don't see the dog jump. We sort of, the camera angle of it obscures why the dog goes into the water. And it's just, I feel like he's lucky Mr. Beast is being dragged, to hell and back at the moment. Because if he wasn't, if there was more kind of mental bandwidth in the kind of r/YouTube drama guy's brain at the moment, I feel like Logan Paul should be getting his, second, third, fourth, fifth cancellation right about now.
Yeah. But man, the speaking of the Mr. Beast thing.
Yeah, we got a few comments.
Yeah. So like an episode or two ago, so I guess at this point, like a month, I think ago at this point.
Yeah.
We like had a minor segment in one of our videos where like, yeah, Mr. Beast is kind of like weird in his terms of what he means, but like he seems like a decent guy. Yeah. And he especially seems like that his friend Ava Chris Tyson seems really cool. And then like literally like a week later, it came out that like Ava was like involved in something to do with like minors, and then after that like Mr. Beast gets called like a war criminal for violating the Geneva Convention, apparently, like not literally because it's not in wartime.
We've got a really bad track record on this podcast of saying things.
Yeah, so official statement, don't like Mr. Beast anymore.
Yeah, bad vibes. Hey, I always said he kind of looked dead behind his eyes. Now we know why.
Yeah.
We are going to get our heads smashed in by the Pinkertons for saying that. Have you seen he's allegedly hired the Pinkertons?
Oh my God. Why has everyone hired the Pinkertons? Yeah. Like,
I don't know.
Matt, it was like...
they must have like a really good kind of loyalty scheme. Like maybe it's like if you get like 9 punches on the punch card, then they do like a strike break for you for free.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
That'd be so fun.
Oh, while we're in the process of making statements on stuff we said in the past.
Oh yeah.
I think recently in one of these episodes, I praised the YouTuber Amp Lemon.
Oh God, did something else happen?
Specifically, I said I had, not really, but like, I think I praised the way he kind of tells a story. And I still think that's true, right? He still is really good at setting the scene and bringing elements back in later, all this kind of thing. And that's what I said, and I stand by that. But I just want to clarify, because past couple of weeks, he's dropped a video that is just so bad. And it's like in the sort of 2016 era, he had some kind of light anti-SJW tendencies, I think. And I thought all that was gone. And it mostly is, but it's like, this is a video about Star Wars and Star Wars being really bad and the sequel trilogy being objectively awful, and everything since the prequels being bad to the point that if you like it, you should get your head checked. That's basically what he says at some point in the video. And I just want to clarify, guys, if any of you watched that and listened to the podcast and was confused, I think that video is a load of dreck. Also, I think it's really bad, especially for a creator of his talents. Like, I've got secondhand embarrassment watching that.
I feel like even like talented creators have blind spots.
And this must be a big one for him.
Yeah. I also think
it's weird because the thesis of the video is basically like, it spends a lot of its time looking at why the prequels were really bad. And, hey, they had good parts, but also it's like you said earlier, they're traipsing around with Jar Jar. Like, part of this video's kind of, a big part of it is like, hey, let's look back at this and look at how bad it actually is. And then, so it does that heavy lifting for prequels bad. And then it doesn't really do the heavy lifting for prequels or Disney films bad. It just says, hey, it's all just awful. And then the kind of, the point the video resolves on is like, it's so weird. It's like the point it resolves on, hey, yeah, so the prequels were bad, but little did we know, hey, it would get even worse, so we should have been thankful. And it's like, that's such a strange video structure.
Yeah, you spend the majority of your video arguing one point, and then like the last half is like, oh, but it actually wasn't that bad to be if you really think about it.
Yeah.
It's always a bit of a minefield whenever you find like a creator that was popular back in like 2016, especially if they're like a man.
Yeah. I'm never going to praise anyone ever again.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm never going to say anything nice about anyone.
It's because like I don't know what people were on during like from like 2015 to 2016. It was just some people were just the edgiest edgelords to ever edgelord.
Oh, the internet was nuts back then. It was just Pepe the Frog everywhere.
Yeah. And people wonder why people hated the internet back then and still hate the internet.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of hating the internet, do you want to move on to Comment Corner?
I think that's a fantastic idea.
Perfect.
You're right fucking shit, you are.
Well, technically that isn't true. They can
I see the British are analyzing our American characters.
I'm sorry, but I'm offended by that content warning. I don't think you should include
but I'm
him for the
offended
rest
by
of
it.
it. Like he is political.
I know they're not racist because I've been watching them for years.
Asian, baby.
Channel name checks out.
It's Comment Corner.
All right, so I've got a couple that I've just like gotten over the last couple of weeks that I've saved. They aren't really related to the theme at all, but if you have one you want to go with first, you can do that too.
All right, let's have a look. I mean, my comments aren't super thematic either because the people commenting silly things on my videos, I don't know why, but they don't really have the respect for the podcast episode theme that we do. It's kind of inconsiderate. I wish they'd be a little bit more considerate.
They don't check in to see whether or not what we're talking about over the week.
No, they don't. And it's like, come on, guys, give me something here. I guess I was talking about Over the Hedge earlier. This is a comment I got on the Over the Hedge video. It's from the Axebeard. He says, I don't know how the suburbs are in Britain or whatever, but the US is like 98% suburban. The only suburbs you see on American TV are the rich-ass Hollywood versions. There are poor suburbs too, which make up the vast majority, just like everything else here. The US is 70% of what most would consider poor, so I don't know what you limeys have against the suburbs.
Okay.
So I've just brought that up because it's a bizarrely incoherent comment, especially when you kind of contrast it against, the video. Because you've seen the video.
Yeah, I've seen the video.
It seems like this guy's seen a different video,
Like, okay, so here's the thing about the suburbs, in America especially. Just because the people who live in the suburbs aren't always like the richest people on earth or the whatever, doesn't mean that like the suburbs themselves aren't a symbol of, wealth inequality and what have you. This is not a coherent thought, but you know what I mean? Like, just because... Like, the reason that on TV you see, like, the rich white American suburbs is because those are the ones that are the most picturesque and most pretty to look at.
Yeah.
Suburbs I'll fully come clean here. I've lived in, like, a version of the suburbs for a good chunk of my life. But, like, the thing that's like, alienating about the suburbs is that, like, it's expensive to live in them, not because the houses themselves are necessarily expensive or the upkeep is expensive. It's more expensive because of how the our society is like so car dependent, which you guys have got over us.
You got to drive everywhere.
Yeah, you got to drive everywhere.
Well,
and gas is
we've got
expensive.
over you a bit. I think our petrol is a little bit more pricey than yours, but we have to drive less far, I guess. Yeah.
Like where can you walk? What are some places you can walk to with like 30 minutes walking distance of where you live?
So I'm a bad example at the moment because I live in London, which is like, it's totally the exception to the rest of the UK in terms of like urban kind of, walkability and all that. But like, flip it back to where I grew up, the house I grew up there. Where could I walk in 30 minutes of there? I will say a church, 2 pubs, and a few years ago they opened a corner shop, and then that corner shop went bust because everyone was just driving to the supermarkets. Yeah. Because I grew up but that wasn't really the suburbs, is the thing. That was like a village. And it's interesting the way that suburbs do exist in the UK, but like outside of the big cities, it's a lot less land is taken up by suburbs outside villages and towns, and it's all scaled down a lot. But if you live in a city in the UK, most of the time, even if I don't know where I'm going with this. It would be rare, even if you lived in like the suburban bit outside a city, for you not to be able to walk to somewhere where you can like buy food.
Right. So in my place where I live right now, which is kind of suburban, but not really, it's kind of like on the outskirts of town. But from what I can walk to in any like 30-minute mile radius, the places I can walk to are maybe the McDonald's that's right by the freeway, or the bus stop. Like
that's pretty dire, actually.
Yeah. Like, and the rest is.
Do you want to make you really
houses.
Jealous?
Oh God.
Sure. So where I live at the moment, let's say 5-minute walk. Any number of shops, food shops, thing shops, just like clothes, gifts, flowers, all of that. Train station, doctors, bunch of restaurants, bunch of pubs. Shall I keep going? That's the cool thing about London. That's the cool thing about walkable, not car dependent cities. I like it.
There was someone without a muffler who just drove by. So like that's my life here, is that cars are every fucking where, everywhere. But the thing is, we don't even live like in like a rich part of our kind of neighborhood. Our neighborhood is a older part, the part that like our house is in is an older part, but across the street from us is a brand new suburban development with like 7 houses that all look exactly the same, just with color swaps, and they were all built by the same real estate developer, and they have this like unnatural tinge of green, and one of the people who lives in that house has a fucking Cybertruck.
Oh no! Oh dear!
I've never seen it driving around. It seems like it might be a pavement princess, but it still infuriates me every time I look at it.
Well, hey, he probably needs that Cybertruck. He's living in the suburbs. He's probably.
The thing is, he has other cars.
Sorry, I was just gonna list off all the kind of regular use cases he'd have for a big car like that, especially a Cybertruck, and strangely, none are springing to mind.
Something about like, and
I don't know. Maybe I've just blanked.
I know you're in the UK, and like, I know Europe has banned the Cybertruck. I don't know if the UK has, but I imagine it's not very common over there. But
I've not seen one. I don't know if they're banned, but I haven't seen one.
I've seen a few Cybertrucks, and let me tell you, looking at all the images and videos and stuff on them online never prepares you for how ugly they are in person. Like it's so bad. It doesn't look like a real object. And they're always so dirty too, because it's stainless steel.
Oh yeah, well they get dirty for sure. You'd have to clean that bad boy, a whole lot. Coming back to this comment. Wrap up the Cybertruck dissing if you want. I'm here for it.
It's just that it's one of the things that gets to me is that like there's always because there's no handles on the doors because Elon's a fucking genius.
You have to use the app to get in or something.
No, you have to use the app to get in and then grab the razor sharp edges of the door.
Jesus fucking Christ.
There's every single Cybertruck I've ever seen is that that part of the car is covered in fingerprints. You shouldn't be able to see fingerprints on cars. Like you just shouldn't be able to. But
Elon Musk should have been bullied more.
Anyway, back to the actual comment.
Yeah, no, it's I don't know if he's just kind of got to the part of the video where I mentioned the C word, capitalism, and sort of reflexively thought that my problem was with the kind of
the rich people
lifestyle of the rich suburbanite. But like that isn't it. It's, you know, rich suburbs, poor suburbs alike are, you know, on a macro level, they're expressions of the same economic and cultural principles that we talk about in the video. You know, kind of manifest destiny, light stuff, and, you know, some of the stuff we didn't get into so much, like the racialized aspect of it and white flight and all that. And basically, it doesn't matter if 70% of the people are living in the suburbs are poor. That doesn't counter what I'm saying. Actually,
yeah.
If we wanted to spend 5-10 minutes hashing it out even further, that kind of agrees with me.
Yeah.
But
the system being based on wealth and exploitation doesn't matter if the people inside of it are actually wealthy.
Yeah. I had a look while I was bringing that one up just to see if there were any thematically related over the hedge comments, and I remembered a short one came through just a couple of hours ago, so I'll throw that at you right now, and then we can head on over to yours. Right. Someone says that it's like at --x, and, you know, it's a silly username, it's one of those, says, expected a video about the Funny Animals movie. Got another North American kid whining about the first world problems, his ancestors' actions, ... emoji.
North American kid?
Yeah, you know, famously American pillar of garbage.
Wait, so hold on. Did they just not listen to the video? How could they possibly think you were North American? Do you think you just have a really weird Canadian accent or something?
People think this more than you'd guess. Like, I get a lot of... It happens it's not so infrequent that someone thinks I'm American. I guess it's just non-native speakers, because it's like if you listen to a French person, I'm not going to be able to tell if they're from France or, you know, French Canada. You know, I don't have that skill. I guess maybe it's that. I actually replied to the guy. I said, Great Britain, famously a North American country. And then someone else replied to that and said, well, you're still living in it. What? I guess thinking, yeah, okay, he was born in England, but, you know, he's living in America because he's talking about America. Because famously, that's how the internet works. But all of this silliness aside, it's, you know, I think this is a good, it's a good example of what I was talking about earlier, because expected a video about the Funny Animals movie. My video is about the Funny Animals movie, but I'm making, you know, original points and commentary and analysis about it. It's not a video that's like, hey, remember the Funny Animals movie? Let's all remember it together. You know, this is like the example.
Also, isn't your video called a serious analysis?
Yeah, but you know, all this video essay as nostalgic summary. Maybe it's just corrupted the meaning of analysis for a generation of YouTubers. I don't know. I guess that's my thematic little nutshell of coherence.
There is kind of a phenomenon on YouTube where videos will be ironically called like XYZ is a cinematic masterpiece or something. Oh yeah. Which I think is fun. It was funny for a while. It's kind of gotten a bit tired, in my opinion. But it's like, it's funny when you do things that are just bad movies, but like not when it's just like a mediocre kids movie. It's like, okay, it's fine, but it's not cinematic masterpiece level. Except for Megamind, that is a cinematic masterpiece, and I will not. That unironically, I love that one.
Yeah, and the sequel too.
Oh god. I had like forgotten that happened. It's came out this year. I've already like buried it.
Yeah, I mean, I've not seen it. I think I saw the first one like 10 years ago, but it's entirely left my brain, you know.
Yeah,
I don't have a mega mind. I've got a normal mind.
It's not relatable, yeah. So most of these are from my X-Men video, because I still got to...
Wait, hold on. What's that, boy? What's that you've got in your mouth? A comment? Here, boy, here. I'm souring on this, I think. I'm souring on this bit as I do it more.
Yeah. So most of these are on my X-Men video, because that's still the video I've gotten the most comments on. Some of these I commiserated with in my Discord server about, because they're just so bizarre. But I'll share some ones that I don't think I shared there. So this one's going to be a quick little one, because there's not a lot of substance to it. It's just something I thought was interesting. Someone commented that look at the movies. On my X-Men video, commented, "You look like a stoner Cody Ko."
Oh no!
Which is fascinating to me, because I don't really know what about me gives stoner. Like
I think it's partially the hair. I would say
the hair. Well,
it's stoner coded for some reason to have long straight hair as a guy.
I would have thought that the cap and the X-Men shirt would have given off like pretentious art school kid or something rather than hair.
Well, you're the pretentious stoner. That's your
right. Okay.
Yeah, you're always blazed 24/7. Yeah.
It's like how every school has like the same archetypes because that's how schools work in real life. And so I'm the stoner kid who goes to pretentious art school.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you're like the, Breakfast Club. You're going to be, I don't know. Imagine I made a funny Breakfast Club reference, guys.
Yes.
I enjoy that I'm making the audience do a lot of the heavy lifting this episode.
Yeah.
I think they're up to it.
It's also this comment also struck me because it came out like it was written like in the height of Cody Ko's canceling.
In the drama,
we'll call
yeah.
it.
I don't even know what's going on there, but I know people don't like him anymore. So it's a weird thing to throw at you.
Yeah, he apparently do you know who Tana Mungu, whatever her name is, however you pronounce it? Do you know who she is?
I don't. I do not.
She's some like drama vlogger who orbits the same circle as like Jake Paul and stuff. Like I think there was like some kind of thing where she and Jake Paul faked getting married or something like that. Like she's that kind of person.
All right.
But
just normal stuff.
But in like sometime several years ago, she talked about how when she was 17, Cody Ko slept with her when he was 25, and that's a little and then he
it's not great, is it?
And then he like absolutely categorically refused to address it after it kept getting bigger and bigger, and the climax of it all was when he was lying low, and then he performed a DJ set at some festival. And one of the songs he played was Sorry by Justin Bieber. And people were like, really? Is this your apology?
Oh, that's like the ukulele thing on steroids.
Yeah. But it was bad. It sucked for me, too, because I actually really liked Cody Ko back in the day.
This is the lesson. Never get attached to anyone. Never form a single parasocial relationship because they're all cannibals or something equally bad. You just don't know it.
Except for us.
That's why they're on YouTube,
We're good. We're okay.
Yeah.
We're totally normal. But that was just
We're
like
fine. You can trust us.
That comment doesn't really have a lot of substance to it, but
just got bad vibes.
Bad vibes, yeah. And then this other one that I got on the X-Men video was another short and sweet one. You watched the video and you know me in real life, so you'll probably know that I am not a huge fan of the political right.
Oh wait, what?
I know you never expect it from me. But as such, in the X-Men video, I make a couple of little blink and you'll miss it references to the fact that I'm not actually a huge fan of the Republican Party in the United States. I think I make like
we're all allowed to be wrong. That's fine. I'll let you cook their TSD. We just don't know that they're all based in,
based in
etc.
Red pilled and
kind of red pilled with it. Yeah.
But I think specifically what I say is like I make some kind of comment about like saying that Senator Kelly is a Republican because he wants to take away the rights of a marginalized group, which
zing.
Yeah,
no, it is a good zing. Yeah,
you get it. It's because that's what they do.
Yeah, kind of like a current reference.
You'll never guess which side I'm voting for in the upcoming U.S. election. But this comment from Due Amoeba 3226 says someone doesn't like Republicans. You got it, Sherlock. You did a good job there.
Hey, at least he's paying attention. At least he's actively watching your video, TSD. He's taking it in. He's responding. A lot of these people these days, they just they just put it on their phone and go to sleep. This guy respects your craft. He's putting 100% in to match your 100% out.
He's annotating as he watches. Like he's making notes.
Exactly.
He's making noted
He's taking notes, yeah.
It's like, okay, this guy doesn't like Republicans. Good to know.
Yeah. Yeah, he's storing all that away so he can better interpret your next stuff, and he's kind of maybe the best viewer. Maybe this guy is the best viewer.
Yeah, maybe. He's noticed some no one else has ever commented that specifically, so maybe he's the one who's watching.
Exactly.
The best. And so something that I've discovered about YouTube comments in this video is that I already knew, but I completely forgot, is that people just have the weirdest takes imaginable about what you're saying and weirdest demands.
Oh yeah.
So I have a couple more of these. So I think I'll just do one more that I think could be a discussion that we bring up more. This was a comment that actually was on the video, but then I removed because I was like, I don't want this guy to be on my channel. So what this person, Wigsley, said was, it's super hard to keep focus and enjoy the decent reviews with the every 2 minutes or so interjections about the personal morals of the directors that no one asked for. Really stops the flow. And so this one annoyed me quite a lot because in the video, I mentioned I
counted. It's something you bring up like a small handful of times.
Yeah, like I double checked. I double checked my script and everything. I mentioned twice that Bryan Singer, the director of X-Men, he directed the first 2 X-Men movies, and also I want to say he directed Days of Future Past and Apocalypse. He's a rapist. So, just point blank, he's a rapist. Allegedly, he was never found guilty in a court of law or anything.
Because the lawyers come knocking at the door.
But
he's allegedly a piece of shit rapist who allegedly should never be seen or heard from again, and allegedly should get his face hit with a brick. Is that? Am I doing it right?
Yeah. That's allegedly. Yeah, but
allegedly.
I mentioned that twice in the nearly 3-hour video. Once I mention it when I say that in the X3 section, I mentioned that that it's a weird movie and weird stuff happens in it, and I make like a crack and this is the movie that wasn't directed by a rapist, which jokes on me. I found out after the fact that Brent Ratner is also a rapist. So so the X-Men trilogy has a 100% success rate of having accused rapists as the directors. But the other time I mentioned
LA for you, baby.
The other time I mentioned
on the
it's so great. Which also means that X-Men Origins Wolverine is the first X-Men movie to not be directed by an accused rapist.
And that's why it's so good.
But the other time I mention it is in the Dark Phoenix section, where I say that Bryan Singer was suddenly removed from the project for reasons that are good. And because those reasons were that the sexual assault scandal came out and he was removed from the production, because you should do that. Hot take. If your main director is accused of sexual assault, you probably shouldn't have them on the project anymore.
Holy shit! You are literally Karl Marx.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually go a step further and say something a bit more controversial. It's kind of bullshit, the idea that people assume that victims are ever lying for attention or whatever. And I'm going to say this, that's not the controversial part. The controversial part is I'm going to specifically cite Amber Heard, because if you look into the case of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, the idea that she was ever faking it or whatever becomes so implausible. The more you look into it, it's ridiculous that people still believe that she was faking it and that he's a stand-up guy or whatever. But that's just my, I'm not going to go down that whole rabbit hole today. But my point here was that
come back next week for the PoGcast Amber Heard Johnny Depp retrospective episode.
Yeah, that's a whole rabbit hole. But my annoyance with this comment was that it was because it's so. First of all, I mentioned it so little, but second of all, the way that they phrase it, the way that they talk about how it's just personal morals or something. They say the personal morals of the directors. It makes it seem like they have a GIMP fetish or something. It's not that they sexually abused young men for years. And I just don't understand. I actually wrote a response to this. I mentioned that Bryan Singer is a rapist twice in this nearly 3-hour review. Why does it bother you this much that in my personal assessment of these films, I take one of the director's horrible actions into account when talking about how I personally feel about them? Because the thing about those videos is that I'm never at any point pretending it's an objective review of just the video, of just the movie itself. Yeah. It's about my own personal experience.
It's your journey with them, for sure. And that's pretty clear from the get-go. And also, it's that framing as well, the personal morals. They cease to be just the personal morals of the director. The moment the director affected, the victims with his morals, quote unquote morals. We're looking at personal in the rearview mirror here.
Right. Like this isn't like a case of someone who like has some skeletons in the closet and that they're embarrassed of, and like them being
it's
like,
not like
ooh,
Army
they're
Hammer
weird.
who's like said, I like eating people or whatever. You know?
Like that's fucking weird, but it doesn't mean he's actually a cannibal, as far as we know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he is. I don't know.
But,
maybe that's that's probably a really bad example.
Maybe a better example is like the YouTuber Pyrocynical. The YouTuber Pyrocynical, he was accused of grooming a minor, but he didn't. That isn't what ended up happening because of some convoluted reasons. But it did turn out that wasn't real. But the reason that we know that it wasn't real is because he was willing to expose the fact that he had a fetish for like inflation roleplay, and he like respect to him for being willing to own up about that, because I know if I had that kind of thing, that would be something that you couldn't drag out of me from the grave. But he did it to like prove that he wasn't like a terrible person, which I can respect. But
take himself down to take the other guy down, kind of thing.
Yeah, but it's not. But like the thing with that is that like it's weird. I'm not going to rely and say it's not weird, but it's not harmful.
I'm imagining a guy like swelling up like a balloon. Is that what that is?
Yeah, it's like that.
Like put like a foot pump into someone's skin and just kind of.
It's best not to think about it.
All right. Yeah, I think you're right there. No, but it's all right. Guy's got some strange predilections. If you were doing like a pyrocynical commentary video, it would be a bit weird if you just kept bringing that up. But it's like, kind of not the same thing. Yeah. Kind of really actually not the same thing at all.
And also, like, the thing is, I mentioned it not in the context to be like, hey, rape is bad, because I feel like that's a given. It's not to be like that. It's not so I can like virtue signal like, hey, I know that sexual assault is bad, and you should know that I know that.
No, it's like talking about the footprint these films and the people who made them.
Yeah.
And the culture that's gone alongside them.
And I literally mentioned it in a context
alongside society.
I just literally mentioned it in a context of like, this is why he wasn't directing it. Like, it's not even like if you want me to go on a diatribe, which is basically what this last like 5 minutes have been about, why I think this is a horrible thing to do, I don't think that's needed, because I feel like it should be assumed. But I still have to mention it because it is an important part of the story as to why Dark Phoenix turned out the way it did.
Yeah. Oh my God, I've just had a realization.
What?
Maybe that was Bryan Singer's alt.
Oh, you never know. You'll never know. Yeah. I ended up removing the comment because after I made a response, he started going off about like, being entitled or virtue signaling or whatever. I was just like, okay, dude, I'm not going to deal with this.
Yeah, says the guy who's like, oh, your 3-hour video that you spent months making should have been more like the way I wanted it. Yeah, okay, that guy. Talk about entitlement. Yeah, piece of shit. Alleged piece of garbage. I like this alleged trick.
It's really helpful. It's something that J.K. Rowling should have really learned before calling Emin Khalif a man.
It's there's a delicious irony, the woman that's spent so many years, I don't know, like actively or indirectly, shutting people up by throwing bullshit slap or defamation lawsuits at people. Like the thing that's finally got her to sort of maybe take a few steps back is being faced with the same thing. Like, I hope Emin takes her for everything she's worth.
Yeah,
and that probably won't happen because money be like that. And we'll talk about that in the Skibidi toilet video, funnily enough. But that would be good ending.
Yeah, I hope so. I've kind of fallen out of love with Harry Potter for reasons outside of J.K. Rowling, but J.K. Rowling was a big part of it. But like, I also kind of reevaluated it. It's just like, there's just so much stuff in these books that makes it so I can't really enjoy them in good conscience anymore. But like, I know there's so many people who still enjoy them, and I empathize with them, because it sucks to have like one of your favorite pieces of media be ruined by the fact that the person who made it and makes money off of it is such a fucking
a colossal
wanker.
Piece of shit. Yeah.
I hope that I have been hearing that Warner Brothers wants to buy out the rights from under J.K. Rowling, and honestly, good luck to them. If they do that, it's just going to be one evil entity owning it instead, but this time it'll be a corporate evil entity. So I guess that's a little bit easier to stomach.
On the one hand, doing that still monetarily benefits her, but on the other hand, she's literally fucking Smaug. An extra couple of million or even $1 billion or whatever doesn't really change anything for her situation. She's fine. She's going to be fine either way.
Yeah. Anyway. people, it's annoying when media we like is made by people who are horrible human beings. That's always a fun
maybe
experience.
maybe you just shouldn't keep mentioning it every two minutes. TSD,
Right? Yeah, because
maybe it's your fault. Maybe you're the villain here.
Because if I think about it, then that makes it real. But if I don't think about it, I don't have to think about it, and that makes my brain not hurt.
Exactly. Now you're understanding how the world works. Welcome to reality, liberal.
Cognitive dissonance? What's that? I have to I have to uncritically enjoy something for myself to enjoy it. And my thing with that is that Bryan Singer being a piece of shit doesn't mean that I don't like any of the X-Men movies he's directed. I like Days of Future Past, And that's that he directed that, and he did a good job directing. He's still a good director. Doesn't mean he's not a piece of shit.
Exactly.
It's like the same thing with Woody Allen. Woody Allen, from what I understand, is a pretty great comedic director. Again, a piece of shit.
Yeah, it's like me. I'm the YouTube goat, and my videos are all bangers, but I'm actually secretly a cannibal as well.
Yeah. It's you gotta take the good with the bad and evaluate for yourself your relationship with the piece of media. And I feel like that it's not a moral failing to enjoy something that's made by a bad person, just as long as you don't deny that's the reality of your situation. I think.
Yeah, it is a moral failing though to be an annoying piece of shit in the comment section because you don't understand that.
Yeah, exactly.
And that is my final statement on this guy.
That's right. All right. Do you want to, after that fiery performance from the two of us, do you want to move on to questions and stuff?
I love questions. I love posing a question, having that question answered really bigly. Let's do it.
Alrighty.
What is your favorite superhero? How long is a piece of string? Where do we go when we die? Why won't my son talk to me anymore? Questions.
Okay, so I've got a couple from. So I was going through when you mentioned that you wanted to do kind of nostalgia and looking back on things as a kind of theme of this episode. I went through the Q&A channel to see if I could find some relating to that theme and even tangentially, and I found a couple that I thought could work. The first one is from Captain Kennedy, and it's a kind of a longer one, so I'll just read it out. We've had a bit of time now since the most recent golden age of sitcoms, which is about 2005 to 2015, including The Office, Parks and Rec, Community, 30 Rock, Always Sunny, which is still running, and Brooklyn Nine-Nine towards the end. You could always tag on The Good Place as well, but I personally argue it feels like a different era. Yeah. Yes, Community struggled in its later years, but now NBC aspires to even reach the lowest ratings of Community. What made this era of sitcoms so successful, not just in the eyes of advertisers, but also in the consistent quality the shows constantly churned out once they found their groove? What's missing from more contemporary sitcoms than those had? What can be brought back going forward? I thought this was a really interesting question.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts, or shall I start spewing mine randomly?
I have some very vague thoughts, but if you have something...
Okay.
Then...
I'll pick it up and then you can chime in with yours if I start flagging. I think the main answer to this is it's just about the systems and structures of the TV industry that were inherited by the writers and creatives of this period. The main difference between then and the end of this period is that coming into it, it's the typical way comedy on TV works is you make pilots get picked up, seasons run. If you do well enough, you get a good few seasons, and then either you end it on your own terms or it tails off. And that is just so far from the case of how TV tended to work with the rise of the streaming era. And obviously, people can say at the end of this period, traditional TV was still getting made as well, and it was, but less people were paying attention to it because of all the changes in the media landscape. And soon enough, everyone wanted to get in on the streaming bandwagon. That's where more of the money started going, and the big systems of TV development kind of spun down. And once they spin down, you can't really spin them back up that easy. I think that's point one from me.
Yeah, in 2015, this was a year before Stranger Things first came out, to give context for the kind of TV that was being watched. Stranger Things was the biggest TV show in the world when it came out, and it was just a random Netflix show at the time. to your point about things about shows and stuff getting canceled and stuff, I think that the reason that we see this that these shows that they mentioned, like The Office and Parks and Rec and Community, all have such legendary reputations is because they were allowed to find their footing. Like infamously, The Office and Parks and Rec's first seasons are not loved by people.
Because they had to figure out what worked and what didn't, and they started off with a lot of stuff that kind of didn't.
It's to the point where it's like a lot of fans will recommend that you just skip the first seasons of those shows because like you can afford to do that because they're only like 6 episodes or whatever, but also because they haven't felt the style and the footing yet. I'm personally still watching Parks and Rec. I've kind of fallen off a little bit just because I've gotten busy, but I'm really enjoying the show. Yeah. I can tell you that the difference between season 2 and season 1 is like night and day. Yeah,
for sure.
Like,
I've seen most of these ones he brings up in this. I've not seen 30 Rock, but other than that, I've seen a lot of most of them. And it's not even unique, that phenomenon. Like, it's not just because with The Office and Parks and Rec, it is true that they were trying to do a few different kind of stylistic things, and that's one of the reasons they got off to a bit of a rocky footing. But look back to the last pivot point between kind of sitcom eras, which was obviously Seinfeld, right? Have you watched Seinfeld?
I've watched a couple episodes of Seinfeld. It didn't really feel like my style, but maybe that's like your point that you're coming to.
Yeah. Did you watch the first few?
I watched the first
Netflix
couple
or whatever.
The first couple episodes.
Yeah. And it's such a different show. And I think with Seinfeld, it takes definitely sort of, if you started watching at season 3 or season 4, like you would get into it a lot quicker. And I think, I don't want to say like season 1's not great. And there are 2 points to be made here, right? Point one is that, right, take The Acolyte. And I know we're not talking about, I know we're talking about comedy, and that's not comedy, but if you just watch the amount of episodes The Acolytes had worth of Seinfeld or The Office or anything like that, then yeah, if I was the guy with higher, canceling and renewing powers, if I watched the first 8 episodes of Seinfeld or something, I probably wouldn't renew it. If I was in the mindset of the people, in that position today, looking at something as in like, oh, this is what's been produced, this is the quality of it, is it worth continuing, all that. But these things get good because they have more of a chance to find their footing. And also the other part of this is, and I don't know how much you can speak to this with, say, The Office or something, but even if you watch something the first time and you don't really like it to start with, and you only sort of start to like it with the following seasons, you can kind of then, once you've got into it and once you've like acclimatized to the language and the comedy of these particular programs, if you then go back and going back and watching Seinfeld season 1 for me, I find it so much funnier now than I did the first time because I'm kind of clued into what it was going for, even if it didn't necessarily hit all of the time. And the same with Parks and Rec season 1. That's so much better to it's still not great. It's still worse than season 3 to 6, I think is probably the golden age there. But like with the context of what this flowered into, even the perhaps shaky quality of the start is massively improved.
Yeah, it's like because like now streaming shows exist in this environment where they like have to be a huge hit on the first season or they don't continue at all. Like I think about like, and even sometimes that's not enough. Like you've heard me talk about Inside Job, right? Inside Job is a phenomenal show. It's only got 1 season. It's technically split into 2, but it was one ordered season. So that's kind of how I count it. But it only got that 1 season, and with that, it was able to deliver a really good show. There were still some shaky parts, like there was some, you could still feel it finding its footing a bit, but it kind of found where it wanted to be about halfway through the first season or the first half of season 1.
Yeah.
But because it didn't get the streaming numbers it wasn't able to blossom into a show that was much bigger than that. That could have been that could have been like, it could have been the next Rick and Morty, like in terms of cultural juggernaut. But it wasn't allowed that because it didn't get the amount of streaming numbers that it wanted immediately. And the thing is, if they just kept it around for a little bit longer, it would have found that audience, because it found that audience after it was canceled, or as it was being canceled. Like, it found the audience that it like loved it and adored it as it like right around it was being canceled. So if like Netflix executives had been a little bit more patient, they could have had something huge, but they didn't.
Yeah.
And now Inside Job is one of the most like requested shows to come back because people love it. And I just think about how like if Parks and Rec had only had its first season, it would not have come back. It would not have become the show it was now. Like it would have died on like Peacock or whatever where it came out, because people would watch like 2 episodes and be like, I don't care, and then the streaming numbers would be terrible, and then it wouldn't get anywhere.
And also, one of the reasons Park and Rec season 1 is not so good is because it's like 6 episodes long, right?
Yeah.
Which is like almost the standard length of the season of TV these days, which barely gives the writers and the makers time to sort of get into the flow of it.
And you can feel that in how shows are constructed nowadays.
I fucking hate the construction of modern shows. I cannot stand it. Like the 6 to 8 episodes, sort of like maybe 40-ish minute runtime structure of a season, where it feels like nothing happens in each of the episodes. Drives me up the wall.
And so
this is the reason there's no more communities in Parks and Rec. Like, the writers are there. The next Michael Schur, the next Dan Harmon, they're submitting they're sending their scripts off, but they're being, roped into some streaming miniseries, 6-episode series, and or it's just getting pissed up against the wall. All these, the people's minds are as sharp as they were back then.
Yeah. And like if you're lucky, maybe you'll get thrown into like a Ted Lasso, where it's still a comedy, show, but it's structured.
Murders.
But like it's structured the same way.
Only Murders in the Building is like, yeah.
And the thing is that like Only Murders on the Building is still a TV show, right? It's airing on Hulu.
Is it? Okay, I get it through Disney Plus over here. So yeah, bad example from me then.
Like that's the thing though, right? Because like Ted Lasso is a good show. Ted Lasso's a good show. It just got renewed for season 4. Why? Ted Lasso had like a perfect ending in its 3rd season. Like it's wild to me that like we're training these writers to try and construct shows that they only last like maybe 3 seasons, because that's the construction rate we're going for now.
Because they know they can't take any more for granted. Yeah.
But now like they're requesting those shows that do end after 3 seasons to go on for another one. Yeah,
they're training writers to write short shows, and then because it's just such a messed up cycle.
And like, and here's another one that's a bit personal
Bring
for me.
me Mr. Television. I demand to speak to Mr. Television.
There's this show that I used to love. The show, I might have mentioned it to you, The Umbrella Academy. The first 2 seasons of The Umbrella Academy.
My girlfriend watches that. I know where you're going with this.
The first 2 seasons of The Umbrella Academy are phenomenal. I love the first 2 seasons of Umbrella Academy.
I've seen the first 2. Yeah.
They're so fun and like quirky and like this weird. They have like this weird idiosyncratic way of telling a story, where some things that are like it's like magical realism, where like the most batshit insane thing will happen and the characters just take it completely in stride. And then they'll get upset about like personal care dramas. It's great. I love the first season of Umbrella Academy. 3rd season wasn't great, it was kind of like felt that it wasn't great anymore.
It was during the pandemic as well, though, wasn't it? So you can give it a bit of leeway for that.
It was like yeah, it's kind of a weird time. It's probably a pandemic show, but they have 1 more season left. They'll probably like turn it around. 4th season comes out. This show normally has 10 episode seasons. 4th season has 6 episodes. So already that's a bad sign. And
nothing gets fleshed out.
And nothing's able to get fleshed out. And I haven't finished the season because I've heard terrible things about it.
I won't spoil it for you.
Yeah,
I was passively watching along with my girlfriend when she was watching it. And if you think it's not great at the start, oh boy.
But I've heard some pretty bad things about the later half of the season. But here's the thing about the first 2 episodes: nothing fucking happens. Nothing fucking happens in the 1/3 of this final season. Nothing happens.
Why is that happening in like every show in the past few years, or every streaming show in the past few years? It feels like that they've all just forgotten how to do pacing. It's like it's so infuriating.
It's weird because like the people complain about filler all the time, like filler from old shows.
Yeah.
Like, I hate that because I feel like the filler of old shows, quote unquote, is just character building stuff. Like, it's done that intentionally. But it feels like with new streaming shows, it feels like there is actual filler where like it feels like they're just trying to pad running time so they can have that 8 episode, like hour-long episode for when it really should have been like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
God, I'm so annoyed. And I'm so upset about the Umbrella Academy too, because like it's like one of the few Netflix shows that was able to have like a proper final season, and it sounds like they completely fumbled it, which is so sad. It's so sad to me.
And for the listeners who have seen the whole thing, and I've seen complaints about, say, the way it wraps up that I wouldn't spoil, obviously, that presumably go beyond the runtime length. Like, I think it seems like there are problems with this season that aren't just that, but also, if even a bad idea executed well is going to be better to watch than a bad idea executed poorly with a truncated runtime.
Yeah, I'm so... I get so upset about the state of TV nowadays, which I guess is probably why the comment was asked. There's still some great shows. I never thought I'd say this, but I feel like we should go back to the old TV model, because at least like something about it was like good shows were getting made, you know? Like like some of the best shows coming out today are still airing on TV. Like, I know that you made a video about like The Bear, and I know that there's some kind of drama about The Bear season 3 not being as good or something, but it aired on FX the first 2 seasons, and it was beloved. And like FX is making some of the best shows right now. They're making ABC is making I think ABC owns FX, but they're making Abbott Elementary. Abbott Elementary is like one of the best sitcoms I've seen that's come out in the last like 5 years. It's probably the best one that honestly that isn't like Inside Job or whatever. And it's because it's allowed to have like 12 to 24 episode long seasons like a normal show.
Yeah. And it's funny, in retrospect, even, say, taking Community from Cap's question, it's funny because in retrospect, you watch the 12-episode seasons, and especially one like season 5, it's a bit frustrating to watch because just as it feels like just as it's spinning up into, okay, we figured out what season 5 is, it has to start wrapping things up and like moving towards its conclusion. And it's just, it's funny that 12 episodes used to be too short, and now we're just getting 6 to 8 episodes.
We'd be overjoyed if something was 12 episodes.
Yeah, 12 episodes, goody, Oh boy.
When it turned out The Acolyte was going to be 8 episodes, like people were
celebrating.
Because like Kenobi, I think Ahsoka, like I didn't watch Ahsoka, so I don't know. But
Ahsoka was 8.
Ahsoka was 8? Okay.
Ahsoka, that was another not much happened really in the episodes show though. So.
And then like Andor, we get Andor. Andor is like 12 episodes, and it's phenomenal. Yeah. And like
it's also phenomenal because it's 12 episodes of like 3 episode like pods. It's paced and it's structured, and it's so good to watch a TV show that feels like a TV show, isn't it? It's funny how that works.
I've been rewatching not rewatching, I'm watching it for the first time. I've been watching Veep recently, and
I need to watch that
because it felt a bit relevant with state of American politics, and so I thought it'd be interesting to watch because it's got Julia Louis-Dreyfus as the main role, and like it's so because it came out in 2012, but it's got some really good like political satire and stuff in it. Like I don't know what's in the water over at the HBO writers room people, but they like just know how to write like political satire like nobody's business. Like there's Succession, and then there's this and what have you. But it's like the episodes are never more than 30 minutes long. They always feel like perfectly paced. They continue the story, but they also have their own self-contained arcs, so it feels like something happens at the end of each. Because like here's some clarification. When Pillar and I say that it feels like nothing happens in an episode, we're not saying that like literally nothing happens, like that these people just like sit around in a circle not speaking to each other or anything. But What we're referring to is that it never feels like anything is accomplished. It just feels like events happen, and
events happen, and often the stakes around those events and the motivations aren't necessarily clear. So even if something does happen, it doesn't always feel like something's happened because you don't have the kind of emotional context to place the happening in.
And that's because like they're structured like movies a lot of the time, right? It's because they're structured like long movies split up into parts. But if you're making
that's definitely a part of it.
If you make a TV show, to make an episode feel like something happens, you have to have things that start in the episode and then things that end in the episode. Not everything, obviously. You can have like long overarching story arcs, but you have to have moments and arcs within the context of one episode or even two episodes that conclude, so that they feel like a self-contained narrative on some level.
Yeah, not fully conclude, but some amount of setup, some amount of conclusion.
Yeah. Like, have something get set up in an episode and then pay it off later on, and that is like a cheat code to make it feel like a productive episode.
Yeah.
And it's wild to me that, like, that's something that, like, this isn't like a dig at writers. I feel like writers are just so screwed over.
It can't be the writers. They must know better than that. It must just be studio meddling.
Yeah, it's not even that.
Surely.
It's just like the this way that's structured, that these shows are encouraged to be structured.
The system they've created, yeah.
It's upsetting. Anyway, that's just one.
Hey, on the topic of Veep, before we move on to the next one.
Yeah.
If you like that, I haven't seen Veep, but I know Armando Iannucci was involved. It might translate less well over the channel, but he did a show in the UK beforehand called The Thick of It, which is really, really, really good. Is
that the one with Peter Capaldi?
Yeah, Peter Capaldi's in it. It's sort of a satire of it's a satire. It's almost like the UK version of Veep, in that it's a satire of, like, in the halls of power, number 10, like the kind of lower down functionaries. It's not like a prime minister or
right.
The kind of equivalent of the VP. It's a bit lower down than that, but it's really good. More people should watch it. And he's a bit of a, I'm not saying this to co-sign his current views or anything, because, like, I think he went soft viral the other day because he retweeted some, like, thread of, like, an Israeli historian talking to, like, a Palestinian one or something, and he was like, wow, look at this, they're disagreeing but they're being civil, this is what we should aspire to. And it's like, bad take, Armando. Maybe
it's not
go back to
as bad a
your
take
programs,
as you could have, but, like,
you could definitely have worse cases, but it's like, where is the civility in genocide?
Yeah,
I think he's got a small case of lib brain, but back 10, 15 years ago, when that was a more relevant brain to have, especially as a writer, he did some really good stuff satire wise. So that's a pillar of garbage. Recommend.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of a thing of code switching almost. You kind of have to like understand the context you're talking about these things within. Like the let's all sit down and have a conversation calmly about this doesn't always work in every situation, and you kind of have to turn that part of yourself a bit off. It's still important, it's still an important skill to have rather than not have, but, like,
it's a good baseline.
Anyway, so I've got a question that is kind of shows the age of this podcast a little bit, because it's from 4 months ago. It's from Audi A3 Sedan. It says, how are you vibing with 97 thus far? Obviously referring to X-Men 97, which was currently airing at the time of this question. So I guess this would be kind of like a thing of, if we're talking about in the context of nostalgia, should we talk about X-Men 97 a little bit?
Yeah.
I don't know about you. I did not watch the original X-Men show that 97 is continuing off of. But
I watched quite a bit of it. I don't think I watched the whole thing. And interestingly, obviously I didn't watch it in the 90s because I was a twinkle in an eye then. But I watched it like maybe 15 years ago, so it kind of still fulfills the nostalgia role in my mind as well.
Yeah. And, ignoring all the stuff around Bo DeMeo and everything that, whatever.
Yeah.
And, like, all the kind of drama that goes on with that show. There's, like the X-Men themselves, there's a lot of drama. I think that 97 is, like, the best way you can do a revival, because from what I've seen,
talking about revivals for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, first of all, it is a continuation of the story, but it's also a good jumping on point for anyone who's never seen it to start off with.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
it's like a super soft reboot.
Yeah. It's kind of like the Doctor Who revival, where like you can jump on right there and be like, okay, I understand. But it also doesn't try to just recreate the original show. Like, it tries to take what's there and tries to assess what people like about the original show, and then it tries to update that and make something good for the modern, that's like good by modern standards with that.
Yeah, it has an awareness that it is a continuation of what was, let's be honest, for a lot of intents and purposes, a kids show from 30 years ago. Yeah. And it not to downplay the original, of course, but like, it's aware that this isn't necessarily just that. So like, you know, what new possibilities can be embraced while sort of placing those possibilities in the kind of trajectory of where it might have gone. So it's a good balancing act there for sure.
Like, they're not limited by being episodic or by having to stick to a status quo or you know, other things that were kind of the restraints of like syndicated television in the late 20th century. So they were, and also they have a lot of a budget. They have a bigger budget, so that too. But
yeah.
I think that the way that they seized the opportunity to tell a more thematically enriching story. Like, they tried to be direct with the themes of the X-Men and tried to make like legitimate political commentary with it.
Yeah.
And rather than just like being like, hey, you remember Wolverine from the show? Like, he's gonna be in the show now. Hey, you remember, like, there were a couple of moments like that. There were a couple like, oh, look, it's Spider-Man from the 90s show. Oh, look, it's
Daredevil. We can have a few as a treat. Yeah. We're allowed to, you know, jangle those keys every now and then if the rest of the thing is actually really good.
Yeah, like, that's always been my philosophy with like these cameos and like Marvel things or whatever. It's just like, you know, as long as the core like story is good and can be enjoyed without that, like, you're fine. You know, just
yeah. If it's an afterthought, it's fine.
Yeah, that's like the one part that of a show or movies I should recommend it to be an afterthought.
Interesting point though on this, I will say. So Bodemayo, who obviously wasn't, you know, God for this show, he didn't do all of it, but he did have obviously a fairly sizable creative influence over it. Mm-hmm. He, I think he's got some nostalgia blenders on a little bit with his relationship and therefore this show's relationship to the original 90s animated show, because he had a tweet that I saw not so long ago. Basically, sort of, the basic gist of the tweet was basically, hey guys, glad you liked X-Men 97, loving all the love for this show, but hey, remember, you know, we're just, you know, we didn't create this. The 90s animated show is where this all came from, so, you know, we're just fulfilling that promise. And someone replied to that. I think it was actually Fabian Nicieza, who is a prolific X-Men author in his own right. He wrote a lot of X-Force and he co-creator of Deadpool. You know, he didn't bring any of that up in the tweet, which was very restrained of him. But he was basically pointing out, actually, hey, you know, I liked X-Men 97. I like the animated show, but why are you throwing comics away? Like, we sold millions and millions of comics in the 80s and the 90s. The show was great, but it didn't create all of this out of nothing. Like, this culture was built up by a lot of people. Besides that, and like, let's not forget that. So I do, because there is obviously this nostalgia for the 90s show in 97, and you wonder the extents of that. You wonder if Bodemayo had continued for another season or two, if it would have sort of began to reveal itself as seeing X-Men history as starting with that show. Yeah. And obviously that isn't the way to do it either.
I think that there's a bit of that as well. It's like, obviously it's important to have reverence for the thing that you're you know, reviving, just as a matter of respect. Like, even if you don't like what you're making, like Tony Gilroy with Star Wars, you still have to like have an understanding and a respect for what you're doing.
Yeah,
but
having come into it with good faith, benefit their doubt. all that sort of stuff.
But having too much reverence, I feel like, gets in the way. Like, I felt it got in the way of 97 a little bit, especially in the finale. I felt like the finale was kind of like, well, we did all this cool stuff where we explored the difference of a status quo and like shaking up things, but we're gonna bring it back a little bit so that we're still like the core like X-Men
back inside
comic,
the lines,
team that you know from the show. And I was like, I feel like that was a mistake. I felt like they were going in an interesting direction, and like they still are going in an interesting direction, but they kind of reined back
maybe a little less interesting.
Yeah, and so obviously, I'm glad Bo DeMeo is gone because all the stuff that came out about him very recently, like we kind of called that, but like it's still a bit upsetting to see it laid out. So
we've got a great track record with calling that sort of stuff.
We're
famously no mistakes.
Yeah. So, and obviously, it's not like having writing decisions that we disagree with is not equivalent morally to the stuff that he did, but I think that it'll be interesting to see where the show goes from here.
Yeah. Oh, on that actually, why don't we start doing a segment where for 5 minutes each episode, we just like sort of list off people who give us bad vibes, and then, inevitably one of them will be cancelled and it'll turn out they're a cannibal too or something, and we can be like, haha, called it.
We can just have like the. Have you seen that meme that's like the guy in the suit and it just says when the random e-celebrity you don't like, you find annoying is outed for a reason to legitimately
we can
dislike
generate
them.
some clout by just gaming it with throwing a lot of stuff at the wall.
The Keemstar approach, very cool.
Exactly. Yeah, that's never it's only ever gone well.
All right, so I have one more. Jumping back to Captain Kennedy and Community. I feel like this was an interesting one because it's kind of about the future and the past as well, because we both have a relationship with Community, so this about the future would be interesting. Separating the two, what are your hopes and what are your expectations of the Community movie? For those of you who don't know, and if you're a fan of the show Community, I don't know how you wouldn't know, but they're currently working on a movie about Community. Because it's kind of started out as a joke based off of the show's like oft repeated mantra, 6 seasons in a movie, and the show has 6 seasons. So people are like, well, where's the movie coming from? And so it'll be interesting to see how that works. Do you have any specific thoughts about it or expectations?
I don't have a ton. I know that I don't like the pitch that goes around most of the time in the fan circles, which is like, oh, Troy got lost on his boat and Abed has to go and rescue him. I think that's like one of the least interesting routes they could take. I also think it's been so long since the show that any sort of direct sort of continuation of a plot point set up in the show into this movie, I feel like anything that, picks up from something that was left sort of dangling in that sense has been guessed and sort of speculated around and stuff and theory crafted enough that I don't... So let's say this is one of my hopes. I hope it's a new thing. I hope it's a new... a new kind of premise. I hope it doesn't try and link back up or like, fulfill fan expectations or something. I hope it just... Yeah,
I hope
fresh start.
I hope there's not like a scene where they're like, and this was the ass crack bandit all along, or something.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like that.
I mean, obviously, not saying don't want it to have any sort of references or
Yeah, like I wouldn't mind like a tribute to the actor who played Leonard. He passed away a few years ago. That would be nice to have something like that. Probably going to be a lot of jokes about how Pierce was an asshole because Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
But I imagine, and that the best. I feel
so
like
this is your expectation.
Yeah, like this is like my expectation is kind of just that they're gonna all get together, and it seems like they all really want to be there. So that like all the actors really want to be there, so they're gonna give their all to it. But I imagine it's going to be weird with Donald Glover. Like I feel like because like his whole vibe has completely changed since he was on that show.
Oh, totally, yeah.
And I wonder if they're gonna make like, I wonder. This is something just I'm just wondering. It's like I wonder if they're gonna try and incorporate that in some way, or if they're just gonna make the joke that he's exactly.
I think
acting,
they might do.
That he's acting exactly like like, you know, Troy, but Barnes in Community.
That would be very funny.
But he's like,
very funny to see 2024 Donald Glover doing that.
It's like,
that would be a great,
you know, Emmy Award nominated Donald Glover for his performance in Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you know, performing Troy Barnes once again. But now he's got like his, you know, gray hair and 10 years of aging.
That'd be good.
I feel like that the two main storylines, or I guess this is kind of one, I imagine that what they would do is something, because in the final episode of Community, it's implied that Jeff's going to stick around for forever. It'd be interesting. It'd be kind of funny to see if like if Jeff's still at Greendale and the dean's still the dean, whatever, and then like everyone comes back for like a class reunion and everyone's like, Jeff, what are you still doing here? I thought I think that'd be kind of a funny idea to do, but I definitely feel like it's gonna be surrounded around a class reunion of some sort, because that seems like the most obvious like vehicle to get everyone back together.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I've sort of semi-consciously been trying not to have any expectations. I think I like the show enough that I want to.
Yeah,
I like the show enough, and I trust Dan Harmon as a writer enough. I know, you know, maybe he's not the perfect person, but as a writer, I've enjoyed, you know, recent Rick and Morty enough that trust is up to date. Yeah. I trust him enough, and I like the show enough that I don't want to put anything into it. You know, I don't want to have any expectations on the movie when it comes out. So I feel either like vindicated or kind of a bit bummed that they weren't borne out. I'm just gonna let them cook.
I do have a little bit of a worry that it's gonna be more like Rick and Morty than it is gonna be like Community. Like that's just
yeah. I mean, you were seeing the Rick and Mortyification of Community a little bit in the last couple of seasons anyway, so it wouldn't super shock me. But I don't think it would. I don't think I'll go the whole hog there.
Hopefully, I mean, I hope not. Just because like I think Rick and Morty is terrible or anything. I like Rick and Morty well enough. I mean, I haven't watched anything since season 5, but like it gets better after that. You know, if you do want to pick it back up, that's like the absolute low point. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good to know. Because I'm a different man after the Morty's sperm episode.
Oh God, yeah.
For those of you who haven't watched the show, it's as bad as it sounds.
Yeah.
I do hope that it does kind of feel like Community again, not necessarily like a Rick and Morty live action special. Just because I like Community's own unique flavor of things, and like there's definitely like overlap between the two. But
I don't want it to try and recapture. You know, I feel like if it's still there, it's still there.
Yeah.
I feel like it will still be there, but I wouldn't want that to feel artificial.
It'll probably be good. Like I hope it'll be good.
Yeah.
You know, knock on wood. If it's bad, then I don't know what I'll do then.
Here's something. I would rather it be like a 42% Rotten Tomatoes movie than like an 81.
Interesting. So like you'd prefer it to be like
I don't want it to be
like a train wreck.
I want
rather
people to be
than
a
mid.
Not even a train wreck. I just feel like I'd rather people weren't sure about it than most people just liked it. You know.
I see.
I feel like a lot of the enjoyment I get from later Community seasons, which is probably the best indication of how this is going to be written. Just, you know, by the of that's how time works. I feel like I like things that aren't necessarily. I get a lot of enjoyment out of elements of season 6, for instance, which didn't necessarily go down as well with the mass public as stuff from season 2 or 3. Yeah. So I think I want it to be something that has a kind of depth to it that you understand more over time. I don't want it to just play the hits, you know?
Yeah, you want it to like try to do something interesting with it rather than just be like...
I think so. Yeah, try to do something interesting even if that fails a bit, because I think that would be more Community a movie than just a movie that looked like the Community movie.
Yeah. I'm really interested to see... because like all these actors are like such decorated like vets in the industry now. Obviously, the fact that they're all coming back at the first place is a sign of goodwill that they like the show enough. But it'll be interesting to see, like it'll be interesting to see because like I can't remember when God, why can't I remember his name? The guy who plays the dean, he won an Oscar.
Jim Rash, yeah.
Yeah, so and like you know, why can't I remember any of their names now? Jeff, the actor who plays Jeff. He's
Joel McHale.
Joel McHale.
Hey, I had a dream about him last night.
But
he was his character in The Bear. I've just remembered that. Sorry. Weird interjection.
He's like a host of a bunch of game shows now, too. Like, that's part of like a big part of his brand. And so it makes me want... my hope is that there's going to be some meta jokes about like where these actors all ended up, but like at the same time they still feel like they're characters from the show. I do hope that they don't do a thing that they kind of did in season 5 a little bit, where they kind of have some of the characters walk back their development a little bit so the show can continue.
No, I don't see that happening. I think that would be really cheap. I think they'd see how cheap a move that would be.
You'd hope.
You'd hope.
My biggest fears is Shirley and Annie. Shirley and Annie are kind of my biggest, like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, how do you get them to a compelling position quickly that isn't just rehashing?
Yeah, because like Annie, Annie comes into her own as her own independent person at the end of the show, and that's kind of different from the character she was in the majority of the show. So I hope that they don't just make her so like she was like, it's been 10 years and she's an adult in her 30s, but she's still that same neurotic teenager who blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And Shirley has been prone to Flanderization over the course of the time. Not as much as Britta.
No.
I think I'll be impressed if Britta is handled really well. Honestly, I don't have high hopes for Britta, but it'll be nice to see Jillian Jacobs again.
I still need to do the Britta analysis video that people have been asking for years.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do that ahead of the next movie news cycle.
Here's hoping.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I had a couple other questions, but I feel like we've probably reached about the threshold.
Yeah, I think this is a good time to call it. You got to know when to end something. Something TV industry commentary.
Yeah.
Something Ted Lasso.
Something.
Yeah. Etc.
Yeah. Oh God. I'm.
Gravity Falls.
Yeah. Gravity Falls.
There you go.
It's Gravity Falls, Community, Ted Lasso, X-Men '97, Parks and Rec, The Office.
You're just doing the SEO now.
Yeah, I'm just doing SEO.
Doing the tags. Nice. Okay.
Analysis, video essay, Doki Doki Literature Club.
Exactly. Pillar of Garbage.
Summary explained. Ending explained.
Ending explained.
Breakdown. Easter eggs. Top 10 things you missed. I just want to cover all our bases.
Put number 1 on the YouTube search results now. So all the people that have come in through that, that's how that happened. Stick around, maybe.
I'm happy you stuck around after you're greeted by a pillar calling me a dog.
Exactly.
All right. Well, do you have any last things you want to say before I read out the outro?
No, I don't. I have nothing.
Oh,
go right ahead.
That's unfortunate. All right.
Yeah.
Well, as my role as a dog, I guess I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna do this in a Scooby-Doo. Could try to do this in a Scooby-Doo voice. The Rockcast is a broadcast run by Riller of Garbage and TSD Rocks. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. We post new episodes on every other Friday, so don't forget to follow us on whatever platform you're listening to us on. If you're on YouTube, I'm going to stop that. It's too much.
Yeah, thanks. I hate it.
If you're on YouTube, toss us a like if you liked and comment if you had any thoughts. And if you're on any other podcast platform, leave us a review. And no matter what the platform you're on, feel free to share the show with anyone you think might like it. All those help support the show and ensure future episodes. You can find Pillar on YouTube, Twitter, and Blue Sky Social, all under Pillar of Garbage. He also has a Discord server that should be linked in the description where you can have your own questions on the hashtag PoGcast channel read on the pod. You can find me on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, all others under TSD Talks. We also both have Patreon pages that, among other cool perks, allow you to listen to episodes of the show early. Usually whenever we finish them, it can kind of range. And with that out of the way, I'm TSD Talks.
I'm Pillar of Garbage.
And this has been the Pillar of Garbage podcast.
And I thought of a last thing to say. More guests soon. We're going to get some more guests soon. All the other doggies are in their kennels at the moment, but we'll get them out soon.
So many guests.